Hello and welcome to Shamanism 101 with me, Maya. This class is titled Becoming a Hollow Bone and the Song of the Soul, and we're going to talk about the most fundamental concept in shamanism, at least in my perspective. Keep in mind that everything that I'm sharing today is coming from my perspective, and there are no claims that this is the only perspective or that what I'm telling you today is the only truth. And if there's anything that I say that you disagree with or anything that you've heard a different version of, I'm not going to deny your truth. I believe fully that many things can coexist, but I want to share with you some of my personal insights and things that I've picked up on my journey along the way. And I want to start with talking about the word shaman. And some people say shaman. It's a word that has a lot of weight. A lot of people now will know what we mean, even though it's not a word that maybe comes from our own culture. It isn't exactly clear where the etymology of the word comes from. Some people claim very firmly that it comes from the word Saman, from the Tungus people in Siberia, where Saman means the one who can see into the dark. Other people say that it originated in the word samarambi, which means to get excited or to excite oneself, and samdambi, which is to dance. Because the shamans were the ones who would excite themselves by dancing into a divine frenzy with drums until they passed into a trance and their spirits left their bodies. To me, the word shaman is a little bit similar to the word guru in a way. Gu in Sanskrit is dark, and ru means light. And guru is the entity or the energy unit that helps another person move from darkness into light. So from ignorance into more awareness. In many Indian traditions, a person wouldn't call themselves guru, but rather it's an honorary title that their disciples and students would call them. Similar with the word shaman, for many people, the word shaman isn't something that you would call yourself. It's not adopted by the person, it's rather adopted by the tribe or even passed down generationally. So if somebody, for me, for example, I would rather say I'm a shamanic practitioner than to say that I am a shaman. And I wouldn't either say I am a guru. I've had experiences with people in the past who quite like to put these titles for themselves, and it's rarely been good. So still, the word shaman for me, the culture that I come from in the north of Sweden, we have our own word for these people, but in the global culture that we live in now, the word shaman has become adopted, so that is the word that I will use. But it can mean a lot of things. The shaman is generally the person who is able to go beyond and be the messenger from other realms back to this ordinary, consensual, mundane reality where we exist most of the time. So the shaman can be a healer, a medicine man, medicine woman, a wisdom and memory keeper, for example. Sometimes the shaman will be integrated in their group and get married and have children and live a, regularly normal life within the tribe. Other times they will live separate from the tribe and live a little bit on their own. There really aren't any rules. And again, the person who is the shaman will in some ways reflect the culture of the group. My biggest definition of a shaman is that it's the person who is able to feel and see on behalf of the tribe. So they have a slightly different perspective from the people who are really in the group. Quite often the shaman will sort of exist a little bit outside of the laws and general ruling system as well. As far as I can see, there's 3 types of shamanic practitioners. The first are the shamans who were trained by the previous shaman in their own native culture, in the lineage of indigenous shamanic tradition, and they carry on with that tradition. So they very much continue the rituals and ceremonies of the previous shaman, and quite often their training is one on one with the working shaman, and then when that shaman passes on, they take over the mantle, so to speak. There's also those who were trained in a specific shamanic tradition but then start bridging. So maybe they travel a bit more, maybe they're got access to the internet, so that they're creating these new cross-cultural practices. And then there's those who haven't had any formal training by a working shaman, but rather they're trained by spirit, and they're heeding this call to serve their communities as neo-shamans. And we're going to go deeper into it later on, but there is this idea of the wake up for the shaman, or the dark night of the soul, or kind of wound that a shaman goes through to heal themselves, and through that journey they discover their power. But today I want to talk about becoming a hollow bone, and this is another definition of shamanism to me. So the practice of becoming fully human and authentically ourselves, to be fully integrated within ourselves. At the most basic level, shamanism can be understood as a collection of ancient techniques and practices that help to awaken and expand consciousness, as well as to heal humanity's inner wounds. Even these shamans who are woken by accident, for example, by something painful in their life, quite often the sort of things that they end up doing, quote unquote, by themselves, are very reminiscent of these ancient practices. So there is a sort of sense of, awareness of these practices that goes beyond, what you can read in a book, or that you need somebody to teach you. It's just sort of in our DNA somehow. A shamanic practitioner is initiated into the realms beyond the ordinary, and they bring back the wisdom to help those in need. Instead of getting stuck in nouns, I prefer to use verbs, and understand that it is in practicing that we are walking the path of spirit. So what is the purpose of shamanic practice? To become a hollow bone. And I just want you to notice again that I'm kind of emphasizing the word practice, because it is this practice that really is the defining feature. It's not a fixed state, like it's an ongoing daily practice. So what's a hollow bone? Well, the hollow bone is an ancient teaching that appears in Buddhism, many types of shamanism, Native American spirituality, also up in the Sami culture, we talk about it. It's a way to shift our consciousness to become an empty vessel for spirit. The idea is that we become a conduit for spirit. When we're able to move our ego and our rational mind out of the way, we become a channel for the divine power of the universe to run through us, without any resistance, without fighting any energy, any emotion. All healing becomes possible, and our radiant health and real power are restored. And when I use power here, I'm not using power in the patriarchal sense of having power over somebody else, but rather the power of being a conductor of energy, and being a conductor of our own harmonious flow. So as you can see on the slide, there's this old bone that's been left out in nature, where all the animals have eaten away at it, and the ants have crawled in, maybe some termites as well, and there's just a pure hollow bone left. And the cleaner the bone is, the more energy you can pour through it, and the faster it will run, and the greater the conduction then. So if you imagine, as energy moves in waves and pattern, the energy kind of flows in, and this generates this great surge of power. A hollow bone is allowing the energy to flow through freely, generating ease and inner peace. A person who is not yet hollow is a person who's full of kind of stuckness, and this stuckness will generate friction and resistance because there will be stickiness from the stuckness that will block the energy as energy moves in waves and patterns. And if you have all these kind of frictions inside of you, it will be a bit like Velcro moving against each other, so it will be stuck. And when energy gets stuck in this way, it becomes heavy. We end up generating dissonant vibrations that cause anxiety, disease, and depression. So here's an image of you and your energy field in this kind of donut shaped flow of energy with this hollow space in the middle where the energy flows through. And if you imagine this as a tube, then you start to get this idea of the hollow bone. And the truth is that we are air inhabiting animals. We are separated from the air that covers us by a layer of dead matter. Our skin, the top layer of our skin, as you know, is dead. And the skin is veered in these dry, kind of horny scales. Sometimes they're a little bit wet if we're sweaty. And then we have these surfaces of our eyes, the inner part of our nose, and our mouth, which are bathed in salty water all the time. All the parts of us that actually are alive, the minute living elements and cells that compose our muscles, the glands, the brain, our nerves, and all other parts reside within this surface of non-living stuff. This is the tube, this is the bone. All the living elements of the body are actually water inhabitants, or inhabitants of water modified by a little bit of salt and thickened by some kind of albuminous or colloid material. So if I kind of do a cross of the donut shaped energy field, then I can put this hollow bone, or what I like to call it, this flute, because I'm kind of merging two ideas now. So I hope you'll follow my thinking here. So I'm bringing in, this is my own creation. I'm twisting this metaphor, turning it a little bit, adding these openings for the chakras. And so turning this idea, this concept of the hollow bone into a flute. I think that this understanding of the flute will be especially important for us sensitives, because we do have a tendency of being too open. And when our chakras are too open, it's hard to generate a real flow, because things will leak and things will come in and go out in places where maybe they shouldn't all the time. So the flute means that, sometimes if you want to play an F key, you close two of the holes, for example. And if you want to, play a melody, you choose which holes you want to cover at different times. So I really like this idea because it really goes well with the concept of playing your soul song and living an authentic life in accordance to your own tune and your own melody. So attunement, after all, is the key to balance and harmony. So as you can see then, this idea of the chakras, and you have the kind of top blowhole on the top of the head, where spirit enters, and then between the legs where it really, like, majority of it flows out, but being able to control the key with the other chakras that have openings both on the front and the back of the body. So I want to share a little quote with you about the hollow bone. This is from Frank Foscrow, who's a shaman from the Lakota tribe. We are called to become hollow bones for our people and anyone else we can help, and we're not supposed to seek power for our personal use and honor. What we bones really become is the pipeline that connects Wakantankan, the Great Spirit, the helpers, and the community together. This tells us the direction our curing and healing must follow and establishes the kind of life we must lead. We have to be strong and committed to stick with this, otherwise we will get very little spiritual power and we will probably give up the curing and healing work. So I put together 4 steps of how to become a hollow bone, or how to become a flute. So the first one is to let go of the judgments of your experience, to accept and to listen to your emotions at all times, to see them as messengers, Even though they might not always be right, they do deserve your attention. When you can befriend your emotions, they will become your mentors and guides. I know that this isn't so easy, but we are going to spend more time and attention on all of these steps as we move through this course. But I wanted to give you this kind of overview now. Number 2, grow up and realize you didn't come here to be happy and feel good all the time. That is not the goal. Happiness is not the answer, and in fact, happiness will make us very complacent. Negative emotions are the ones that really stir things up, and they give us the energy that we need to take action. They might not be pleasant, but they are vital, and without them, you will not grow. In order to be a full human, you must feel all of it. And the aim is to become emotionally literate so that we can speak the language of our soul, of our emotions, and understand what they're saying to us. Do your own healing work. Don't fall victim to spiritual bypassing. Let go of being a childish person and understand that nobody else can do this for you. It's not enough to just pay to do this program, for example. You have to do the work, and you have to do it by yourself. Good news is you don't have to do it on your own. So ask for help when you need it and reconnect with your power, your intuition, and your inner guidance. Number 4 is to practice. You need some kind of consistent daily practice of connecting you to spirit and to clean out your tube. Just like it would feel gross if you didn't brush your teeth or floss every day. Same with your tube. When you start to tune into it, you'll realize that when there's stuff stuck, it's not going to feel so great. So being that great conduit and being able to act in service without resistance, hesitation, or selfishness. Look at that little lotus. So shamans had many jobs in the tribe, or many different functions. They were the first physicians, the first diagnosticians, psychotherapists, religious functionaries, magicians, performing artists, storytellers. There's really not one defining role for how a shaman should be, act, or behave. And so these kind of characters have been separated in our society today, and I think that what a lot of them are missing is this true understanding of why. And I wanted to share with you this quote from one of my teachers, from the Sami tribe. And this person says, when you work only for yourself, you have power of 1. When you work for your beloved, your power is doubled. When you work for your family, your power is multiplied. When you work for all of humanity, your power is incredible. And when you work for spirit, your power is unlimited and infinite. And this person has also really helped me understand how easy it is to become distorted on this path. And we will have seen this, all of us, I'm sure we've seen how easy it is for people who start to gain this kind of power to lose their way, or to get sidetracked, or to try to get power over others with it, or they get greedy, or they get power hungry, or and I think that it is really important to understand why and what our motivation is, and to remember always this hollow tube and this flute, because we will go deeper into it. But spirit will play a very harmonious melody with you. You play the song of your soul. When you're working with more destructive, or more egoic, or more chaotic energy, or sort of demonic energies, the music will have a very different effect. The song that you're playing through your flute will sound very, very different. So this was the first introduction to shamanism, and this is a really short kind of starting point, but I would really like you to click with this image of either the hollow bone on its own, which is the more kind of traditional way, or if you like my invention and my twist on it with this idea of the flute, to keep that with you as you move through the rest of the program. Thank you so much for your time and your attention.